So we're here at FreedomFest talking about ethics and principles and things and freedom, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm here with this interview with Michael Kraus. So happy to have you here. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just great, and I'm glad to be here too.
Excellent. So the thing I want to ask you about today is understanding the difference between someone's values and someone's ethics, right? We talk often here at the foundation about the idea of people having different values versus different ethics.
Yes.
Right? Someone feeling maybe more conservative or more progressive as their values, but their ethics saying how much of that should be pushed on others via coercion or government or persuasion, right? How should we get others to think the same way? That's what we often talk about. So I'm not here to try to get you to be more progressive or more conservative. Not what I'm here for. I'm here to kind of get where your head is now. I feel like if you had to, let me ask you, if you had to select and you had to pick one party, Democrat, Republican Party, which party would you pick if you had to pick one?
Well, that's a terrible question.
It is a terrible question. I know.
And judging by my experience, I would probably pick the Republican Party because they have slightly less tried to force me into places that I don't want to be.
Got it. Okay. I like how that's good. I like that. So yes, and if you look at people now, I think the average person, as you just said, really wants to be happy. They don't necessarily want the world to be a certain way. They personally want to be happy. They want to find their own happiness. And that's different for different people, obviously. When someone wants to be happy, I think most people would agree that if someone physically hurts them or harms them in some way, it's going to reduce their happiness, right? If someone attacks you, hurts you, hits you, it's going to reduce happiness, right?
Absolutely.
Every time.
Yes.
And a second piece, which is I think a common thought process also, which is if someone steals something from you, vandalizes your property, takes something via fraud or theft, either one, again, it's going to hurt happiness, right?
Absolutely.
And I think every time. With that in mind, do we think that it's not just us? Do we know that everybody thinks that? Or is it just us because we're here?
That's, okay. I know how I feel.
Yep.
And how resistant I am to someone forcing me into anything.
Sure.
And I don't know for sure. Some people so desire to be told what to do that I think they're happiest when they don't have to decide.
Sure.
I think that there are a lot of people who really
almost don't want the responsibility.
Exactly, that's the word
right?
I was looking at. People who don't feel responsible. They have been taught, like they're being taught today, that we're all victims.
Right.
Intersectionality is victimhood on steroids.
Sure.
Victimhood like a fire-breathing dragon that drives people into a mindset of victimhood.
So if an individual then is saying, look, I don't want the responsibility. I would like you to tell me what to do, because then if something goes wrong, it's not my fault, right? It's your fault because you told me what to do, so it's your fault.
And the correlation of that is also true is when things go right, it's not my fault either, because you're either responsible and you take responsibility for everything in your life,
right,
or you're not. And what I try to teach my employees and my family is responsibility is necessary, because the word responsible is response-able.
Right.
If you don't see yourself as responsible, you can't do anything about it.
Right. Absolutely.
And
so let me ask that question. If someone is saying to themselves, no, I want you to impose your will upon me, I want you to do that, is that person really being coerced? Isn't that person voluntarily accepting it? Aren't they giving up their freedoms on their own? So then is it actually,
that's possibly
is it
true.
actually coercion, right? If I'm asking you to do this, is it really coercion? Or am I saying, no, please, do it to me?
I think the coercive part of it happens in how they're trained
Okay.
and how they're propagandized from small child up to see themselves as not responsible.
So you're saying the coercion, in your view, is almost the environment,
It's very deliberate.
a deliberate environment, to
Yes.
make people say, you know what, this is now where I am.
Yes.
Okay, I got it. So if we accept that most people want to be happy, whether that's through having responsibility or avoiding responsibility, whichever that might be, they would still not want to have their stuff taken, right? They still wouldn't want to be physically harmed, though. I mean, even if I'm saying, no, I'll do what you want me to do, and I'm happy to do it, I still feel in my heart that there are certain things that are mine. I don't want you to take them. And I don't want you to physically put me in jail or hurt me, like in that case, right?
Oh yeah. I don't think anybody wants that.
You know what? So it sounds to me like that's almost a principle, a universal principle, regardless of whether the person is wanting to be taken care of or not.
Human beings act with purpose,
Sure.
and their purpose is always to act in what they perceive as their own best interest.
Sure.
Very often it's not.
Yes. Absolutely.
I've made lots of actions in my life that I thought at the time were in my own best interest and turned out not to be.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, we all make mistakes, but nobody wants to be taken away and locked up.
Sure. Sure.
Nobody wants to have their home taken away and told where to live.
Right. Right.
But it happens.
So let me ask you, is there something that you think Democrats should be able to enforce upon you? Do you think it would be okay if they were to enforce, say, a draft upon you? Something like that.
No, I think that's a good. That draft is involuntary servitude. It
Sure.
is slavery. I was drafted, and I was forced as a slave of a oligarchy / government
Sure.
to do things that I would never have done otherwise. I was forced to kill human beings.
Yep.
And it was choices I made. I was responsible for it because, as the line in, I think it's in Wish You Were Here from Pink Floyd, did you exchange a leading role in a cage for a walk-on part in the war? Yep, that's me.
Yep,
I
absolutely.
exchanged a leading role in a cage for a walk-on part in the war. I had a wife, I had a son. Had I refused to go to Vietnam, I would have been a felon. It's been a couple years in jail
Yes.
and been a felon for the rest of my life. And on top of that, I would have been completely ostracized from my family.
Absolutely.
My parents would have never spoken my name again.
Absolutely.
So I was in a position where I had a choice to make, and I made that choice. I survived it. That was okay. Wasn't good.
Right. Well, you see now that there are situations to where, say, Republicans may want to enforce their will upon some Democrats. You see that in certain areas, happening in across America now. Do you think it's a time when it's okay for Republicans to enforce their will upon people who wouldn't want that to happen to them?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't think that anybody should have the power to force anyone to do anything except leave other people alone and not do any harm.
Is there an exception to that rule? In other words, is there a common good argument? Is there an argument that says, yeah, but what you do affects others, right? Is there something like that now?
Not in my world.
Not in your world.
In the world we live in, Absolutely. It's very common for people to say, oh, you can't say that, that'll upset someone.
Sure.
I really don't give a damn if it upsets someone. I have friends who are very progressive liberals, and we get along just fine. And I tell them what I think, and they can tell me what they think. And it's all right. I will try to persuade someone, but I will never force anyone.
So what about the idea that, say, we have to control guns because guns can affect others, or we have to all get vaccinated because the disease could affect others? Is that an exception in your world?
No, it's not. No, it's not. We have things called inalienable rights that come with being a human being, by being born a human being, endowed by nature or God or whatever you will have. Those are part of what I am. And guns are just a small symptom of the ability to resist force. That's why we have guns, so that we can resist being forced.
So what you're telling me is, if I'm hearing this correctly, you have friends who don't think the way you think, but you still respect them.
Absolutely.
And they still respect you.
Yes.
Everything I'm hearing is you believe in the principle of human respect, that when someone uses either force or coercion or theft or whatever they use against someone else, that it's going to reduce happiness, it's going to reduce harmony, it's going to reduce prosperity to everybody. You're totally on board here.
I believe that absolutely. I don't like to be coerced at all.
So why do you think there are so many people in our world today, particularly in our country now, who just don't go there, who just can't accept that a principle of human respect, again, that violence and force and coercion, to include government coercion, to include government force, doesn't reduce happiness and harmony and prosperity? Why do you think that is? Do you have a feeling on that?
I think it has to do with not wanting to be responsible, and it has to do with being constantly propagandized and molded into a subservient serf. That's what I think it is. It's just the overwhelming ethos of the world is that we need a leader to guide us.
Sure.
And that doesn't happen to be mine.
Got it. I love what you're saying. You're actually saying that the idea of coercion isn't just theft or violence. It's also creating an environment to where people aren't responsible. That's
exactly it. That's exactly it. That's what I was saying before. People have been taught that their life is something that was given to them by somebody else, not by being born.
Right.
And so they look to whatever, the new God, the government, whatever you want to call it.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. That's amazing. I think we need more people to be thinking that there aren't so many exceptions, that there are a whole lot less exceptions that we think, and that human respect is the key to us all getting along and having a happier, more prosperous life.
That's the way I try to live. I'm an employer, I have employees, and I treat them with too much respect according to
Too much respect, I like that.
some members of my family. I give everyone, when someone turns in their time ticket, I never challenge it. I say, if I expect people to behave badly, they will. If I expect people to behave good, they will.
Yep, change the environment, change the results.
I have to be smart enough to realize that some people are not going to respond to that correctly, no matter how much I try to train them, and I just take them out of the organization. I let them go.
Makes sense.
But I don't do it with relish. Some people really enjoy firing people. I hate doing it. Do it as little as possible. And I make sure that if someone has a problem, like one of my employees, his wife had a baby, I don't have any policy written down in the company. It's a small business.
Right.
I gave him a month paid maternity leave so he could be with his wife.
Right.
And then she got sick with some complications.
Okay.
And I gave him another month with advance on vacation pay. So I take care of people at least as good as I would want to be taken care of myself.
I love that. That's great. Michael, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes today. I really appreciate it. It's great talking to you.
Thank you.